And in this kind of go, go, go city, women are very exhausted and depleted. And they even if they're not even menopausal, they don't want sex as well because we're just so tired.
Can I ask you something more, little bit personal and technical? Now, you have kids, right?
Yes.
3 kids,
Yes.
grown up now. So you explore this subject after you make your money, so to speak, and then you say you were separated, and then you don't really think about it until you have time to think about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, sometimes that has to happen.
Right. So is there such an urgency for the Hong Kong society to really look into it? And how could they really think of this as something they need to understand? That's the education part that is lacking in the city.
Well, I would say that, are you truly happy? Do you truly feel alive in your body? Do you feel that, do you have health issues? Do you have do things trigger you? Do you have emotional outbreaks? Do you feel conflict within yourself? I mean, all of this could be signs that you really need to do inner work.
Yeah.
And sexuality is part of the inner work. I think if we're so outwardly focused, we're also very affected by what's going on. Right now, it's really tough and challenging times for people because, either you have, you're working from home or you're not even working, and, you're not having the freedom to travel as you used to. There's also fear about catching COVID, or, there's so much tension, much more than the usual stress.
Yeah.
And if we're always watching the news or reading, we're going to be affected by the outer world. So it takes even more for us to build our inner world, because our outer world is actually a reflection of our inner world. So how we feel and see ourselves is a reflection on how we see the world, how we see what's out there. And it changes. It can change moment to moment.
Yeah.
And it's so important that you realize that when you're not happy, it's not you're blaming your partner, or you're blaming the fact that you have a crappy job, or that you don't get to travel.
Yeah.
But really, to do the inner work, and with this time where it's kind of slowed down, is a perfect time, and it's a perfect time to make time for yourself and to go into your inward journey of growth.
Okay. Now, if I may switch topic, since we are, keep on talking about many different issues, let's go into private banking. I think private banking, they talk a lot about art appreciation, stamp collecting, how to acquire antiques, impact investing. They never talk about sexuality as a topic in the private banking lunch. Why not, if it is so important?
Well, it's a reflection of society.
Yeah.
What does society seem to value? They value
wealth.
They value wealth. They also value like achievement. Climbing up the ladder, having more status, having more things, or not having things. Choosing not to have it. That actually goes even beyond.
Trophy wives and Hollywood-looking husband, Brad Pitts of the world.
Yeah. I mean, so in the private banking or wealth management industry, we will look for what to give clients. We have to give clients what they want. And and nobody talks about sexuality. Come on, it's taboo. You don't even talk about it with your friends oftentimes.
No, I think there is a startup company who is doing some capital raising. They send me some fact sheet, some sort of a term sheet. It's about making some sort of a sex toy vibrator for women. Yeah, and then looking for capital investment. So I read these things.
Yeah, but I think that that's, anything around sex is a marketable, a commercial.
Yeah, and sad.
Yeah, rather than
natural.
The actual, the gift that it is.
Yeah.
So sex toys, sex movies or pornography, all that sells, but that's
not natural.
That and that's not going to help people with their emotional needs or with their self-love, for instance.
Yeah. So definitely we need to find a good, meaningful relationship to start with, and then drill deeper sexuality. And if someone is an island, not talking about the Tom Hanks movie, living in an island, not Castaway, right? But you need to find a partner.
I actually disagree.
Really?
You don't need to find a partner to embrace your own sexuality.
Really?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when you embrace your own sexuality, it's probably easier to find a partner. And you know what you want more. And once you know what you want more in life, you'll be more able to get that. I think a lot of people go along life not even knowing what they want because they're not in touch with their inner self and their truth. So
someone has to explore their own sexuality before they know how to find the right partner. Is that?
No, it's not a given. It's I'm just saying that it doesn't mean partner first and then sexuality second. But it will make you a more of a whole person when you actually have come to terms with yourself, like who you are sexually, who you are sensually, as well as all the other aspects of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I guess for women's needs and also for men, it's quite different. Women's, when they think of sexuality, it's more multidimensional. I think they look into the spiritual aspect and then the nerves thing you mentioned. Men got stimulated by seeing, right?
Yeah, I mean, women can also be stimulated by seeing.
Not as much.
And aroused. Okay, so this is a difference between men and women.
Yeah.
Men are like, when it comes to sex, they're like on fire. Whereas woman is more like that pot of boiling water. It comes, it starts slow to boil, but then once it keeps boiling, it keeps going. Whereas men with the fire, it can be extinguished very quickly. So women may be slower, but that's why women have the capability of having multiple orgasms and, to really have a longer, a longer sexual experience, and men can also learn that, but they're different in terms of what they need to do.
Yeah, I like what you say and also what you teach as a counselor, because when I talk about men's sexual needs, they talk about erectile dysfunction, they use Viagra of sorts, right? Impotence, and then something very practical. There's no emotional aspect to it. And when you talk about you learn from your guru, you kind of drill deeper into tantric, right? Tantric sex.
So my methodology is inspired by Tantra
Mm.
and Taoism, as well as modern neuroscience, psychology, attachment theory, relationship dynamics, nonviolent communication. It's a very beautiful and eclectic blend. So going back to your comment about men and, erectile dysfunction and other types of sexual dysfunction, it's often treated by drugs, whereas frequently there is an emotional aspect behind it.
I'm sure.
And if that is explored and can be healed, then it's miraculous that the physiological functioning will come back. And I believe that a lot of underlying emotional aspects that haven't been explored is due to trauma and wounding, especially when we're children between the ages of 0 and 7, because
sexual abuse.
It could be sexual abuse, but it doesn't have to be sexual abuse.
Right.
It could be just learning about the sexual shame, feeling guilty about it, or fearing it, this, what is sex? Oh, it could get me pregnant, or I could get STDs, or that sort of thing.